What if I told you that there's a way to stop Arne Slot's Liverpool? Sure, the Dutchman has taken the Reds to another level, turning them into serious contenders for the Premier League title, and who's to say they can't make a run for the Champions League too? However, while that might be true, let's be real. No team is without flaws. That's exactly what we'll be breaking down in today's video. After analyzing almost every game they've played this season, we're going to dive into the key tactical approaches teams can use to disrupt their build-up play and shut them down in the final third. Now, if you're a Liverpool fan, you might not love what you're about to hear. But if you support a Premier League rival or a potential Champions League opponent, this video is for you. So, before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe, and share this with your football-loving friends. Alright, let's get into it. First up, Liverpool's build-up play. Under Arne Slot, they still line up in a 4-3-3, just like they did under Jurgen Klopp. But make no mistake, the way they build attacks, the tempo of their play, and the patterns they use to progress the ball have all evolved in a big way. Based on the data, Liverpool now ranks second in the league for both possession and territorial dominance, while sitting third in build-up completion rate at 86.71%. This highlights a clear shift in their approach under Arne Slot. Unlike Klopp's high-intensity, direct build-up, Slot's Liverpool are far more methodical. They're more patient in possession, carefully controlling their progression up the pitch rather than relentlessly driving forward at every opportunity. This structured build-up is built around Slot's 4-1 shape in possession. The back four forms the first line, with the fullbacks tucking in narrowly and staying deeper rather than pushing high early on. Just ahead of them, Gravenberch operates as the lone pivot, acting as the key reference point for progression. Now, take a look at the numbers. Among Liverpool's 5 most involved players, centre-backs and full-backs dominate the list, but right in the middle of them, Gravenberch. And it doesn't stop there. He's also second in passes received, with 1,112, only behind Van Dijk. That tells you everything about how much Liverpool rely on him during their build-up phase. Meanwhile, the other 2 midfielders, typically McAllister, Szoboszlai, or Jones, position themselves higher up the pitch, occupying the half spaces. This setup gives Liverpool numerical superiority in the first phase of build-up, usually involving 5 players, with Alisson occasionally stepping up to provide an extra passing option. Liverpool's progression can come in 2 main ways. Sometimes, the centre-backs play direct, line-breaking passes into midfield. Other times, they work the ball around the outside, using the full-backs as an outlet before finding a central option. This flexibility makes it difficult for opponents to disrupt their rhythm early in possession, as they can always adjust their build-up based on the situation. But we'll get to those later. For now, let's focus on how teams can disrupt Liverpool's build-up in this shape. The best way to counter this structure is by setting up in a 4-4-2 mid-block. But why a mid-block specifically? Because pressing Liverpool too high can be a dangerous game. Players like Van Dijk, Konate, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and even Alisson are all more than capable of breaking the press with long, accurate passes. If you give them space, they can pick out runners like Salah, Gakpo, and Diaz in behind, instantly turning your high press into a defensive nightmare. It's also important to remember that whether Liverpool are in possession or transitioning into their defensive phase, they constantly create situations where they can hurt teams. One key example is how they position Mo Salah high up the pitch, often lingering on the edge of the opposition's rest defense. Sometimes, he's joined by another attacker staying high, occupying defenders and pulling them out of position to open up space for Liverpool to exploit. That said, this doesn't mean a team shouldn't press at all, it just means the pressing has to be calculated and situational. By setting up in a 4-4-2 block, you create numerical equality against Liverpool's build-up structure, making it easier to apply pressure without leaving yourself exposed. This shape allows for man-oriented pressing, particularly on the flanks, when Liverpool's fullbacks take on ball-carrying responsibilities. The 4-4-2 can also shift into an asymmetrical 4-3-3, with the two strikers staying central to cut off passing lanes to Gravenberch, while one of the wide midfielders steps up to press the fullback on the ball side. Applying pressure in this area disrupts Liverpool's ability to carry the ball forward comfortably, forcing them into riskier decisions or sideways passes back to the centre-backs. It also makes it much harder for them to find Gravenberch outside the block, cutting off one of their key progression routes. But pressing alone isn't enough. The two strikers have a crucial job to do, and their role is twofold. They need to apply pressure on the centre-backs while simultaneously blocking the passing lanes into Gravenberch. The best way to do this is by having the two forwards or alternate responsibilities. One presses the ball carrier, putting immediate pressure on Liverpool's build-up, while the other stays deeper, cutting off the passing lane to the pivot. Now, the strikers could just sit in their shape and defend space without engaging, but that would only play into Liverpool's hands. If Van Dijk and Konate are given time on the ball, they'll calmly circulate possession until a gap opens up, allowing Liverpool to break through the press with ease. Meanwhile, the two central midfielders need to position themselves in the spaces around Gravenberch, where Liverpool's number 8s typically operate. That way, if the ball does reach the Dutchman, one of them can step up and immediately apply pressure, limiting his ability to turn or progress the play. This setup not only disrupts Gravenberch's influence, but also ensures Liverpool's midfielders are covered, allowing for a more man-oriented defensive approach that keeps their creative threats in check. If one of Liverpool's number 8s, most likely McAllister, drops deeper to form a double pivot and offer an extra passing option, your midfielder needs to track him tightly in a man-to-man approach. McAllister is a fantastic midfielder, but he isn't as comfortable receiving under pressure in deeper areas. If he gets the ball with his back to play, that's a prime opportunity to press aggressively and force a high turnover. If the number 8 drifts wide, as Szoboszlai and Jones often do, your fullback should immediately step up to press, while the rest of the backline shifts toward the ball side. This keeps the shape compact, ensuring that Liverpool's wingers are closely marked while also preventing them from exploiting central gaps. But this structure doesn't just disrupt Liverpool's rhythm, it forces them to go long. Now, Liverpool are actually quite good at playing long balls and contesting second balls, but this is exactly why sitting in a mid-block is the best response. By keeping the team compact, the distances for your midfielders to track back and cover space are much shorter, making it easier to win back possession and prevent Liverpool from gaining control in dangerous areas. Now, what if Gravenberch himself starts roaming wide or moving freely to create space for others? Well, here's the thing. Arne prefers his pivot to stay central, receiving between the lines under pressure, turning and driving forward. But Gravenberch isn't the most refined off-ball mover. His timing can be inconsistent. Sometimes he drops too early, other times he doesn't move at all, which can actually disrupt Liverpool's spacing rather than improve it. Maybe this is why Liverpool targeted Martin Zubimendi last summer. His positional discipline and ability to control tempo would have been a much better fit for Slot's build-up system, ensuring a more structured and controlled progression. That leaves one last variation. Trent Alexander-Arnold inverting into midfield, transforming Liverpool's 4-1 shape into a 3-2. And this is yet another reason why defending in a 4-4-2 block is so effective. It allows for a smooth transition into a 4-2-4 pressing shape. With Liverpool shifting into a 3-2 build-up, your front two can now focus on covering the newly formed double pivot, cutting off their ability to receive and turn. The wide players should press Liverpool's wide centre-backs while also blocking passing lanes into the number 8. Meanwhile, the midfield duo can step up and apply pressure on the double pivot when needed, ensuring that Liverpool's central options are constantly under pressure. This setup also helps maintain a numerical advantage at the back, creating a 4 versus 3 against Liverpool's front 3. Now, let's be clear, this isn't a foolproof plan for an entire match. Liverpool's individual quality means that at some point they will find a way through. Whether it's a line-breaking pass, a long diagonal switch to Salah, or a quick combination play, they have the technical ability and intelligence to bypass pressure. And that's not the only challenge. A single lapse in concentration, a miscommunication, or a late press can be all it takes to open up just enough space for Liverpool to exploit. So, the real question is, what happens when they do break through? That's what we'll explore next. Once Liverpool manage to progress the ball, your team's immediate focus should be retreating into a compact defensive shape. The 4-4-2 should transition into a variation of a back 5, ideally a 5-4-1, ensuring better coverage in the defensive third. There are two effective ways to achieve this. The first is using a winger or wide midfielder to drop into the back line. This means one of the wide midfielders tracks back to double up on Salah or Gakpo, helping the fullback contain Liverpool's wingers. It also tightens the space between the fullbacks and centre-backs, which is crucial in preventing Szoboszlai's underlapping runs, something Liverpool often look for through Salah's diagonal passes. The second way to form a back 5 is by dropping a central midfielder into the back line. One of the midfielders shifts into a temporary centre-back role, creating a 3-man central defense and adding an extra body in the middle to clog up space. Why is this effective? Well, Liverpool's squad lacks true interior playmakers, the kind of players who thrive in tight spaces, combining quickly to break down deep blocks. Without these profiles, they often rely more on wide rotations and switches of play rather than intricate central combinations, making it much harder for them to create clear-cut chances. So, while Liverpool under Arne Slot might be one of the best teams this season, they're not invincible. Their build-up can be disrupted, their transitions can be exposed, and with the right tactical setup, you can force them into uncomfortable situations. Of course, this isn't a one-size-fits-all blueprint. Liverpool's quality means they'll always find ways to adapt, and for this plan to work, your players need to stay fully concentrated and committed for the full 90 minutes. But if you're an opposition coach, a football analyst, or just someone who loves the tactical side of the game, these are the key areas to watch when facing Slot's Liverpool. If you've made it this far, chances are you enjoyed the breakdown, so make sure to like the video, subscribe for more tactical insights, and drop your thoughts in the comments. How would you approach a game against this Liverpool side? Would you press high, sit deep, or try something completely different? Let me know below.